Hey guys, welcome back to the Curly Reader. My name is Amanda, and today I want to share with you my most anticipated middle grade releases for the second quarter of 2022. Okay, so I will be sharing my adult and YA releases next, but today I want to share with you middle grade books that are coming out in the next 3 months that I am very excited for. I have 12 books here to share with you today. If I'm a little underlit, it's because my laptop's down here and I'm reading a lot, so I will be glancing down quite a bit and I'm a little underlit today, but that's okay. So yeah, let's just get into this because this is probably going to be a little long. Like I said, I have 12 books to share with you, and they will be in publication order. These are books that come out in either April, May, or June of 2022. So let's get into it. The first book that I want to share with you is called A Duet for Home. This is by Karina Young Glosser. This is the same author as the Vanderbakers series. So if you're a fan of that series, this may appeal to you. But it is a completely different book, and it follows two kids who are in a homeless shelter and have a love for classical music. And so one of the kids is new to the homeless shelter, and she finds out she cannot bring her viola with her to the shelter. I don't know why. I don't know. I'm assuming that will be found out throughout the book. But she meets another little boy at the shelter who they kind of bond over their love of music. And that's pretty much what I know about that. This one comes out on April 5th. All right, the next one, and this one comes out on April 12th, is by Christina Soontornvat. I read 2 of her books this month for middle grade March, and she has a new one coming out called The Last Mapmaker. This is a fantasy book that is Asian inspired, I guess. And this has to do with a little girl whose father is a con man, I believe, and she kind of wants to change her trajectory in life, and so she apprentices with a map maker, and she gets invited to go on this voyage on this ship. And then once she's on the ship, she realizes that things are not quite what they seem. It is a fantasy based book, but it sounds really good, and you had me at maps. I mean, let's be real here. Okay, the next one that I want to share with you is called Moonwalking. This is by Zetta Elliott and Lynn Miller Lockman. This one, I believe, yes, is a middle grade book in verse, and it is about a white autistic boy and an Afro-Latinx kid who become friends in the 1980s, and they bond over music. So it says punk rock loving JJ just doesn't seem to fit in really well in school in Brooklyn, and because he's one of the only white kids. And then Pi is a math and history geek and by day and a graffiti artist by night, and he is eager to follow in his idol Jean-Michel Basquiat. Ooh, did I say that right? I don't know. Footsteps. And so they kind of stumble onto an unlikely friendship, and they start bonding over music. So that is called Moonwalking. It comes out also on April 12th. And I am really excited to check that one out. I always love middle grade books in verse. So yeah. All right. The next one on this list is a sequel that I am so excited for. This is Lightfall, Shadow of the Bird by Tim Probert. This is a sequel to Lightfall, The Girl and the Galdurian that I read last month, I believe. And this is a graphic novel, fantasy graphic novel. The main character has anxiety, and it is physically displayed on page, and it is so well done. I love it so much. But this is a continuation of that story. It's set in this fantasy world where the sun no longer exists. And so, I mean, obviously fantasy, right? But so the creatures on this world have created lights that they have strategically placed throughout the world to provide light and warmth for those areas. And then something happens with some of them, and so this kind of gets into that. But I am very excited for this next installment in this graphic novel series because the first one was really, really good. All right, next we have a fantasy. Oh, I forgot to say, the Lightfall sequel comes out on April 26th. Okay. Um, Next, we have a fantasy. This is The Marvelers by Danielle Clayton. This comes out on May 3rd, and this has to do with a young girl who it's set in a magical school that celebrates cultural traditions throughout the world. And I think that that is such a cool concept. So, this girl that is attending this training institute is the first conjurer that the school has seen, but this school has different abilities, like magical abilities in it, like brewing Indian spice elixirs, bartering with pesky Irish pixies, things along those lines. And she is the first conjurer there. And so, yeah, it is kind of Rick Riordan-esque. She attends this school because she's the first one of her kind. Things are a little different and difficult for her. And then her and her friends kind of stumble upon a problem. So it just sounds so cool. I love this concept of taking cultural things, cultural beliefs, cultural practices from different areas of the world and combining them and making them special. I love that so much, and I think this is going to be a really, really cool book. I believe this might be another first in a new series, possibly. I'm hoping, because it sounds really cool. Okay, the next one on this list is The Road to After by Rebecca Lowell. This comes out on May 10th. And this follows a little, I think this is also a book in verse, if I'm not, yes, this is also a book in verse that is about a girl who is finding healing in nature after being freed from her abusive father. And so all of those, the inverse, the healing through nature, escaping from the abusive environment, all of those things are kind of like keywords for me and things that I think I would like. And so, yeah, this one just had my name written all over it. So yeah, that one is called The Road to After, and it comes out on May 10th. Okay, the next one I have here, I'm really excited about. This one is called Duet, and it is by Elise Broach. Elise Broach wrote one of my favorite read alouds that I did with my kids last year, called The Wolf Keepers. I loved that book so much. I just thought it was so masterfully done. And so this is her new book, and so I definitely added this one because of the author, but also the concept sounds really cool. So this follows a bird, a young goldfinch who basically lives in the backyard of a piano teacher. And this piano teacher has a student who is very, very gifted, but he refuses to play. And so he's supposed to be preparing for this festival, and the bird starts singing the song that he's supposed to be playing, and they have a duet. And so it's kind of that is their first duet, and it's about this relationship between this boy and the bird, and I'm assuming some healing along the way. It says that also there is a mystery element to it, in that it says that it is about a real life mystery involving three artistic geniuses, but it doesn't say in the Chopin, author George Sand, and French romantic painter Eugene Delacroix are the three like famous artists that are talked about in the book. And so the previous book that I read by this author had to do with, oh my goodness, my mind just went completely blank, John Muir. And so I got there. And so I really liked her bringing in those historical, like, key figures that kids might not really know a lot about. And so, yeah, I'm very excited to check this one out and see what it's going to be like. And that one comes out, like I said, on May 10th. Okay. The next one that I have here is just a fun one that looks like it's going to be fun. This is Cookies and Milk by Sean Amos. This is a semi-autobiographical book by the son of Famous Amos, who makes Famous Amos cookies, which you, I'm sure, have seen in your grocery stores. I know I am a fan of Famous Amos cookies. I think they're fantastic. So this is set in 1976, and it is about this boy who basically he's with his dad, and his dad wants to open up the world's first, or the U.S. country's first, I don't know, cookie store, like cookie shop. And so they live in a primarily white neighborhood. There's a few things that they have to overcome, and it sounds like it's going to be fun. So this is definitely more of a fun one. I love that it's semi-autobiographical. I love that it's about a product that most people are familiar with, and that it's historical. And there's a lot of, like I said, key things there that I am excited for. And so yeah, that one comes out on May 17th. Okay. This next one sounds really interesting. And this is Journey to the Parallels by Marcy Roman. This comes out on May 24th, and it is about parallel universes. And so it's definitely more sci-fi. It is about a 12-year-old seventh grader who just is dealing with life, right? She's just a typical 12-year-old. You know, she has issues with friendships, siblings, mom, all of that. But then her mom's behavior changes really drastically, and she's trying to figure out what happened. And then she starts suspecting that there may be something to her mom's claim that they can view a parallel world in the window of an old industrial building. And so she starts looking into it, and so it's just kind of about this parallel universe, which I think is really interesting. So kind of a little bit more of a sci-fi one. But yeah, that one comes out on May 24th. The next one is probably one of my most anticipated. This just sounds, once again, right up my alley. It's called In the Beautiful Country by Jane Kuo. This comes out on June 14th. And this is a book in verse about a Taiwanese immigrant who moves here to the United States from Taiwan, and just about the differences. It says perfect for fans of Inside Out and Back Again and Jasmine Warga's book Other Words for Home. And so I've read both of those books and really enjoyed them. I think books in verse about immigrant experiences are very interesting. They're very accessible, and I love reading all of them. So definitely planning on checking that one out. That one comes out, like I said, on June 14th. All right. And then we have another first in a series that just sounds like so much fun. I read the summary for this one, and I'm like, this is a book for me. Okay, so this is called Onyeka. Don't know if I said that right. And the Academy of the Sun. This is by Tola Okogwu. Ooh, I should have looked that up. But this one comes out on June 14th. And this says Black Panther meets X-Men. Fans for Amari and the Night Brothers. And it is about a British Nigerian girl who learns that her afro hair has psychokinetic powers. So it says Onyeka has a lot of hair. I have this issue. It's not the same. I'm not saying it's the same. I know it's not the same, but I do understand having issues with controlling your hair. So yeah, so she has a lot of hair, and she kind of feels self-conscious about it. But then she learns that her hair, she can control her hair, and she can use it and direct it in different ways. And it just sounds so much fun. I'm like, if there's a book about a girl who can control her hair and her hair has magical abilities, I am on board for that. And so, yeah, this just sounds like so much fun. Once again, it's about a kid going to a magical school, but it sounds, the magical hair thing, you had me at that, right? So that one comes out on June 14th. Okay, and then the last one that I want to talk to you about is the new Gordon Korman book that comes out on June 28th. This is called The Fort, and this sounds really interesting. Gordon Korman is an author that I have not read yet, but there are multiple books of his that sound really, really interesting to me. My daughter, you can actually see it right here. My daughter just picked up Linked from the school book fair, which sounds really interesting. Their War Stories, I think, was one of his that came out last year that also sounds really interesting. He's a very, very prolific middle grade author. But this next, or this one that he is, oop, I just lost my place. The one that is coming out in June. What just happened? Oh, okay, there we go. Um, the one that is coming out in June is about a group of 5 friends who, after a hurricane goes through their town, they find an abandoned bomb shelter. And it's like fully stocked. It's fully, not fully stocked as in modern day because it was abandoned, but it has food, electricity, entertainment in the form of video cassettes. And so they basically find themselves retreating to that spot, and then they find out that one of the kids in their group is actually using that as a hideout from an abusive family. And so they kind of all come together and start learning that they're going to have to be more open and vulnerable with each other, share secrets with each other, and help each other out. And it just sounds really interesting. So that was the last one on my list. So those are 12 books that I am super excited about that are coming out in the next 3 months. Have you heard of any of these? Are you also excited for any of these? The links for all of them will be down below if you want to check any of them out. And yeah, I think that's going to do it for today. Let me know what you're interested in that's coming out in the next 3 months if it wasn't on this list. And I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that you stick around and subscribe. And until next time, see ya.